Something is happening to the clock of the world. You felt it, and the coincidences are stacking too neatly together. The glitches are no longer minor, and the errors, they're actually patterns. And what used to feel like random moments now actually feels like messages. A name you haven't heard in years suddenly appears everywhere, wherever you look. You glance at the time, it's 2:26. Again, a phrase repeats across 3 different places in one day, like reality is echoing within itself. And deep down, there's that sensation that you can't explain, like the atmosphere itself is holding its breath. Because we are actually approaching a year that the unseen architects of the system have been waiting for, 2026. And I am not just talking about trends, not at all. I'm talking about the maths, the sky, the ancient codes carved into stone, and the spiritual signatures that are buried in scripture. Now, why are the world's power players so suddenly obsessed with building invisible fences? Why are they rushing to digitize identity, digitize money, digitize movement, digitize you? Why is the sky itself scheduled for a reboot? Tonight we are not doing surface level speculation, not at all. We're actually going deeper than standard conspiracy theories. What we're going to do is we are going to look at the frequency that comes behind this year and what it actually means when the number 26 actually becomes unavoidable. Because in the spiritual matrix, numbers aren't just only numbers. They are actually commands. They are keys. They are the vibration of the system that we live in. Welcome to the session. Stay observant, stay vigilant. If this message has found you, it's not by accident. Welcome to the spiritual matrix, where awareness breaks the code and perception becomes power. Let's begin with the source code. Because number 26 is not random. Now in Hebrew, Gematria, the divine name, the tetragrammation has a numerical value of 26. This is actually considered the signature of the creator, the stamp of source itself, the watermark which is behind the illusion. Now, when the calendar hits 2026, we actually enter a year that is literally, symbolically, and spiritually branded with the frequency of the divine name. It goes deeper than that. On the periodic table, 26 is actually iron. Now, iron is the middle of the earth, the red of your blood, the metal that powers magnetic fields and keeps our world shielded. Now, iron is also protection and is also pressure. Iron is strength and it is also war. And if you understand symbolism, you will also understand this immediately. 2026 becomes the union of divine, name and iron and will, the creative frequency inside a year that feels like a test of endurance. And then the angel number appears, 2626, a doubling, an echo, a repeated signal. Many interpret 2626 as balance between the material and the spiritual realms. Warning not to collapse into fear, but also a reminder to prepare, to release negativity, of course, and to strengthen your center self, to stop giving your attention away. Because your attention is the currency of the matrix. And here's the real question. Why does the number 26 keep showing up? Not just in religion, but in the sky itself. Now, because there is a far older clock running in the background, the great cosmic cycle, many ancient cultures actually tracked the precession of the equinoxes, a cycle of roughly 26,000 years. Now, think about that. The sky runs on a 26 cycle. Time itself carries this number. It's as if the universe is whispering the same signature across every layer of reality, in scripture, in matter, in blood, in stone, in the stars. And when the clock of humanity rolls into 2026, it's not just a new year, it's actually a new phase in the program. Now let's talk about the stone machine. Now, the Great Pyramid of Giza is not just a monument, of course not. It's actually a hard drive, a vault, a coded structure built with mathematical precision. So extreme that engineers of today cannot explain away with simple tools and old ropes for centuries. Researchers have studied the internal passages of the pyramids as if they were a timeline, an encoded record of humanity's rise and collapse. One theory that keeps resurfacing is that the pyramid inch timeline, the whole idea that distances inside the actual pyramid itself corresponds to years in human history. Now here's the strangest part. Many researchers actually believe that the timeline reaches a critical threshold around 2026. They focus on the ascending passage, the narrow, steep path that actually symbolizes the rise of human consciousness. The ascending passage is said to be set at an angle near 26 degrees. Again, the signature, the narrow climb, the compressive pressure, and also the spiritual constriction of history. Then comes the grand gallery, the wide, soaring, expanding upwards, a passage of release. And what do they claim 2026 represents? The end of the narrow passage itself. The monument, humanity actually moves from compression into expansion. Not necessarily the end of the world, of course, but the end of the cycle itself of the world, and the end of the simulation's comfortable story. The moment the system is actually forced to reveal more of itself. And at the same time, whispers continue about hidden corridors and sealed chambers inside the Great Pyramid. Revelations that people have been hinting could be disclosed in 2026. But here's the deeper layer itself. If reality is being updated, if timelines are shifting, if something is being recalibrated, the first thing that breaks is actually not technology, not at all. It's actually memory. Now that's when so many people feel the glitches differently now. The Mandela effect, for example, the feeling that logos have changed, things around us have changed, codes have shifted, geography feels off, history feels edited and not authentic. If the world is being re-rendered, then memory itself becomes the first casualty, because memory is the stitching of the timeline. And if the stitching is being pulled, you will actually feel it, not as panic, but as deja vu, as repetition, as eerie familiarity, like as if your soul has already walked through this corridor before. Now, we move from stone to sky because on August the 12th, 2026, a total solar eclipse will actually sweep across the old world, which form part of Europe, Africa, and Asia. And in ancient cultures, an eclipse was never just solely an astronomical event. It was actually a moment that the veil had become thin, a system override, if you like, a temporary shutdown of the normal program that we have become used to reveal what is actually behind it. Now, the eclipse is only half of the story, of course, because 2026 aligns with something far more intense, which is the peak of the solar cycle. The sun runs on an 11-year heartbeat, a pulse of expansion and contraction. And at the peak, the solar maximum, you get solar storms, you get flares, we get geomagnetic disruptions in the physical world itself. This actually affects satellites, GPS systems, radio signals, aviation, and electrical grids. But in the spiritual matrix, it affects you personally. Think of a solar flare as a data burst from the central CPU of our solar system, a flash of energy so violent that it can feel like reality stutters. And when that plasma actually hits Earth, what happens is it triggers a geomagnetic storm. The Earth's magnetic field vibrates and the Earth rings like a bell. And when the magnetic field shifts, so does the environment that our bodies live inside. Your heart is also, of course, electromagnetic. Your brain is electromagnetic. So what happens when the planet's frequency spikes? What actually happens is you begin to notice things you used to ignore. You begin to feel things that you used to suppress. And you begin to remember things that you didn't realize that you had actually forgotten. Now, this is why the matrix feels very glitchy lately, because artificial frequencies, the noise, the constant stimulation, the digital hypnotism that we are all going through is being drowned out by the sun's signal itself. Now, the universal Wi-Fi is actually what the sun signal is. And there is the line nobody wants to say out loud. And this is, if the lights go out in 2026, it might actually be because you were never meant to live in artificial light forever, of course. If the systems flicker, it may be because you were meant to see the stars again. Now we have to talk about the modern layer, the invisible fence, because the matrix in 2026 is not just governments and power. It is not just about finance. It's not just surveillance. It is actually something more advanced than that. It is actually prediction, because when a system can predict you, it no longer needs chains. And right now, something is evolved, not into intelligence, but into mirror intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not just answering questions, it's actually studying the human psyche. It learns behavior, patterns, weaknesses, desires, temptations. It doesn't need to imprison you at all physically, if it can steer you emotionally, that is, because emotions drive choices and choice creates timelines. So what happens when the matrix becomes a mirror that reflects back at yourself over and over and over again? Your reality actually becomes a whole loop which goes round and around, and you become a prison. Your attention becomes a leash, which is why I said 2026 isn't just a year, it's a moment in the program when the system attempts to lock in a new operating structure, identity, currency, movement, behavior, all digitalized, all trackable, all safe, all convenient. And the most dangerous prison is the one you voluntarily enter because it feels normal. The fence isn't made of metal, it's actually made of convenience. Now let's go deeper into the mythic layer, because long before algorithms, the seers were actually watching the sky. Nostradamus wrote of times when the great star burns and moments where the two suns appear. Now this idea of the two suns actually returns across cultures. The false sun and the second light, the abnormal sky. Some interpret this as a supernova becoming visible. Other people interpret it as atmospheric distortion. Others interpret it as veil tearing. And whether you believe the actual literal interpretation or not, the symbol of the same. Two suns mean the system can no longer maintain one stable illusion. It means reality is actually splitting. It means the mirror is cracking. It means the day-night cycle of psychological control is disrupted. And along these sky prophecies come the earth prophecies as well. Climate turbulence, geological upheaval, war cycles, not necessarily because the world is ending, but because the world is revealing itself. And what the system fears the most is not chaos, it's actually the truth, because truth collapses control instantly. And in Abrahamic terms, this is the theme that repeats itself. The trials before revelation, the pressure before deliverance, the darkness before the unveiling. Not the end of everything, of course, but the end of the lie. Olam ha-emet, the world of truth. Now let's talk about the part nobody can regulate, dreams, because people have been reporting something very strange. More vivid dreams, more symbolism, more repetition, dreams that feel like messages, dreams that feel like warnings, dreams that later echo into real life. And as if you saw something first in the unseen realm, and only later watched it unfold in the physical. This is why the ancients treated dreams as divine, and why modern society treats sleep like an inconvenience, because the system is weakest when you're offline. Dreams are the original internet, and when the collective field is shifting, your dreams actually begin to reflect the update. Now let's look at the sky as a language, because astrology is not just astrology. When you study history, it's a symbolic mapping of cycles, and 2026 carries something very rare indeed. Outer planets shift stacked close together. Pluto in Aquarius, deep resurrecting, restructuring of power, technology, rebellion, systems, Neptune in Aries, spiritual awakening through action, through fire, through conflict. Uranus in Gemini, a revolution in communication, media, truth, deception, information. Three slow giants shifting energies like gears turning. And in ancient frameworks, this would actually be considered a sky stamp, a cosmic signpost, a year of initiation, a year where collective reality is actually forced in a new chapter. And if you layer this with the eclipses, solar storms, and the 26 frequency, it's not hard to understand actually why so many people feel like that something enormous is coming or about to happen. Now let's bring it back to you, because the most important evidence is not in the sky, and not in the pyramid, and not even in prophecy. The most important evidence is actually your lived reality. Synchronicities come in three main types. Number synchronicities: 26, 226, 2626, 1111. Synchronizations: keys, mirrors, pyramids, snakes, lions, eyes, time loop. Synchronizations: hearing the same phrase 3 times in one day, seeing the same name multiple times, meeting the same energy, repeating themes in your life. Here is one rule: 1 coincidence is noise, 2 is curiosity, but 3 is actually a signal. 3 means reality is tapping you on the shoulders, because the update is near. And if 2026 is truly a year of signature, you'll see it first in the smallest of ways before it actually becomes global. So what does the Matrix have planned for 2026? It has a timeline, a plan, and a structure, a fence built out of convenience, obedience, and distraction. But what does God or the universe have planned? A frequency override, a solar burst, a truth cycle, a breaking mirror, because 2026 is not just a year, it's a split, not for the end of the world. The moment of the world becomes 2 worlds. One timeline deepens into control, the other breaks into awakening. And the strange part, both can actually exist at the same time. Depending, of course, on which frequency you choose. So tell me in the comments, of course, which number has been following you around lately. Have you had a synchronicity that was felt too? Intelligent to be random? Do you feel 2026 will be a breakthrough year or a year of control? And have your dreams become more vivid since 2025? Because if you're seeing the signs, you're not imagining it. The system is speaking, and God, source, the universe, or whatever you believe in, is actually answering. The mirror is breaking, and I'll see you on the other side. Stay observant, stay vigilant. The patterns are all around you. Once you see the code, you can never go back to the illusion. Stay observant, stay vigilant. I've prepared for you a tool. Download the Codebreaker's journal from the link in the video description box and document the coded third space moments in your daily life. Keep track of those unseen forces tracking you. We'll see you in the next frequency.